Patti Gary, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let me tell you about the first time that I saw your photography. It was at the Conroe Art League. I had just moved here, and that was the first place that I went to find artists, to kind of get in the groove of art around North Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a docent shift, and I was walking around looking at all the artwork, and I saw what I thought was a painting of a person's face with a bunch of flowers on it. I thought, oh, that's a really cool painting. And I got right up on top of it, and I was like, how did they do that? How did they paint that? And then I looked and I saw that it was photography, and I was shocked. I didn't realize what I was looking at. And the person working with me then was Wendy Moreland.
Oh, yep.
And she told me a little bit about you and told me that you're a photographer, and that was all done in the editing softwares. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. I want to talk to this person because I'd never seen flowers on a face like that. And as we're going here, I'm going to put some pictures up of the items we're talking about. So
okay.
I just wanted you to know that the first time I saw your work, I thought it was a painting. And I'm guessing that's probably not the first time you've heard that.
I do hear that, yes. And it's interesting that that's the first piece of work that you saw of mine, too.
Yeah.
Was, one that I manipulated and put flowers on the face. Because in general, I try to get it right in camera. As you can see here, there's no face with flowers on it. But that one was a self-portrait.
Right. Right. I found out later that was you. That was actually looking at you, right?
Yeah.
And so flowers is a motif of yours. It's something that comes up quite regularly. In fact, we're sitting in front of some flowers. I would say it's a little different because we have a black background on the flowers themselves.
Yeah.
And where does that come from? What is that?
Well, I think just the flowers look very striking with the black background, and I have a unique way, well, unique to me anyway, of how I keep that black versus having to do it in Photoshop. On all three of these, in fact, I make a black tunnel out of these panels and put the flower away in the foreground, use off-camera flash to light it, and my goal is to light only the flower and keep the black. And my goal in all of these, when I'm doing florals like this, is to get it right in camera. And that way, when you're editing, the editing is to enhance, not to fix.
Right.
But obviously, on the first photograph that you saw of me, I was totally different with flowers on my face, because my goal there was obviously I was manipulating and taking photos of flowers that I'd taken and put them all over my face.
Correct, right. And was that a mixture of many different photographs, or?
It wasn't. Actually, that was a collage of some florals that I had. In fact, that particular piece was in one of the Cal Internationals. It had made it in to that.
Okay.
And it was just florals that I'd walked around my garden, I picked. It had some dimension and depth to it with some shadows, because I used putty to raise some up, put some down, and took that photograph. And then when I was doing a self-portrait, it was natural for me then to want to put flowers on my face, which I know is a little bit odd, but I thought of that collage because I could use different parts of it and not just have like a rose here, a rose here, a rose there, but it was like an assortment, kind of like a garden, like an English garden. And so why flowers on my face? Well, when doing a self-portrait, if you think of any time that you've ever given or received flowers, it's through kindness and love, some emotion, but it's all from a good place. And so for me, flowers are very meaningful. And so when I was doing a self-portrait, and I just didn't want it to be just my face, I wanted it to be something that was more meaningful, that would resonate for myself with florals in my photography, but then maybe with others as well. So that's why I put the flowers on my face.
Well, the end result is very cool. I mean, it looks like something out of a fantasy novel. That's what it made me feel anyway. Yeah. And I like the idea. I mean, you said, I didn't want to just have a portrait of my face. Well, most people do. I mean, that's what most people do. And I think that's pretty cool how you set yourself apart by doing something like that. Something that grabbed my eye. I mean, it just grabbed me, and I had to sit there and look at it for a long time and try to figure it out. And so another one of your pieces that I really fell in love with was also flower related. Well, you do a lot of flowers, and we'll get to that a little bit more in a moment. But the woman with the red dress and the big headdress of flowers, with one eyeball made out of, there's an eyeball painted on or photographed?
It's a Cosmo, put in her, and I erased the center part of the the flower so that you could see her eyeball.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it is her own eyeball.
It is her eyeball.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool
So
effect.
I took the photo without the flower there and with the flower there. So then when I literally took a little history brush in Photoshop, you know, I laid the two pictures on top of one another. So that's how I got then to her actual eyeball underneath it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I really like that
Yeah.
that picture. And that was like a photo shoot, you said, right?
It was, yeah. So I live in Montgomery, and my favorite florist in the whole world is there, Bride and Bloom. And I've gotten to know the owner, Elisa, quite well. And so I went in one day and I was like, okay, I want you to start thinking of you know, like a floral headdress. Think, you know, the wildest headdress that you can imagine with, and you and I both like kind of dark, moody colors, you know, with all these just flowers coming out everywhere. And so I wanted to do a photo shoot with that. And so away she went. She took that idea and ran with it and would send me photos. Okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking. And she bought like the whole head for it. And then when I went in and talked to her further about it, she's like, you need a girl, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I need a girl.
Don't
I need
we
a girl
all?
for this, right?
Right.
Yeah, I need a girl for this. And she goes, and then you're going to need hair and makeup too. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, I do weddings. That's what I do. I know. So she had the perfect person to do the hair and the makeup. And she knew the girl. The girl worked summers at her shop and was at A&M. And she drove in from A&M one afternoon, and we did it.
That's
it
cool.
was just perfect.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really great photo, and it makes you smile. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
again, it grabs you because it's something you don't see every day.
Yeah. It's kind of, you know, bloom where you were planted. And so that's what I was just, you know, here's a young girl in college. You know, a couple of the photos I took, actually, I had her sitting in this beautiful green velvet chair, and she was actually studying. She had exams at this time. And so, you know, she brought some books with her. I didn't ask her to bring books. I was like, oh, let's take some photos with you with the books. I mean, you know, because it's exam time, and here you are, you know. So at any point in your life, you know, you bloom where you were planted. So
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloom where you're planted. Speaking of flowers, so we're on the subject of flowers. I have to say that I've never seen dead flowers as beautiful as you present them. So speak to that a little bit. What is it about dead flowers that grabs your eye and that makes you want to explore more?
Well, my husband, he gives me flowers a lot. And, you know, I started noticing over, you know, a period of time, you know, of course I never wanted to throw them out. And then as they're drying, in fact, one of the first flowers that I took a photo of, I took it at every stage. And then as it was drying, I was like, wow, that's really cool because there's a pink. But as it dried, the pink became more magenta fuchsia. It became brighter. And I guess my aging self really jumped on that, and that, okay, you know, it's at this time point where most people maybe would throw it away. It's all wrinkled and crinkled, and then, but for me, I noticed the colors, and the colors were more vibrant. And you know, my aging self is embracing all those wrinkles and crinkles, and you know, as we're aging, we can become more vibrant.
Yeah,
you know?
amen. I
Yeah.
believe that.
So
more vibrant as we get older.
And it's different. I mean, lots of people do flower photos like this. Let's be real. There's nothing really unique about these. It's flower on a black background.
On the black background, which you don't see too often, so don't sell yourself too short there. But
You know, but dead flowers. You know,
Yes.
you don't see that very often.
you don't see dead flowers. And I remember being at the Woodlands Waterway Art Show and seeing people with dead flowers in prints. You know, you don't see that very often. People walking around with dead flower prints.
No.
There you go. In fact, that's kind of another theme of your photography. I would say that you have an eye for maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? People who might not be seen regularly, things that might not be stopped and looked at regularly.
Yeah.
You're known for your street photography, photographs of people who've lived hard lives.
Yeah.
I think specifically, I think of Windows to the Soul, which is my favorite piece of yours.
The Peace Man.
I bought that at the Woodlands Waterway a couple years ago, a print of that. And I'll just say why it speaks to me, and then I want to hear what your take is on that. I remember seeing the man's face in your booth. You know, a big image in the back of your booth. It was the first thing I saw when I came in. I was like, oh wow, I got to go look at that. And then you walk in and you see these beautiful blue eyes, but then you also see that the man has had a hard day. I mean,
You've been beat up pretty
he's
good.
been beat up, yes.
Yes.
And that reminded me of life, you know,
Yeah.
like haven't we all been beat up at some point or another? But still, he was smiling, and there's
Yeah.
just this brilliance in his face.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't think everybody's going to stop and look at something like that. And so you've allowed us to do that. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and where that.
So my husband and I were in Portugal, and we were waiting to go on a walking tour. And this fellow was sitting on a bench by himself, and so I told my husband, hey, I'm going to go over and talk to him, see if I can take his photo, give me some money. I'm going to give him some money, and I also purchased him. There's a little kiosk there with some food, and get him some food. And so I did that. Fortunately, he spoke a little bit of English because I don't speak any Portuguese. And he was very amenable to me taking a photo of him. You know, I sat there with him, chatted with him just briefly, said, can I take your photo? And he said, yeah, yeah. And so I took his photo, and then as I'm walking away, I'm flipping through the photos, and I noticed that his eyes are closed in many of the photos. And it's like, no, we need his eyes open. I mean, his eyes were just so striking, and he had just, I don't know, you saw compassion and hope and kindness right in his face. And so I walked back over and I showed him, your eyes are closed, can I take another photo of you? And he said, €5. And so I'm yelling to my husband, hey, I need some more money. And I'm like, I don't want him to leave. But I don't want to walk too far because I didn't want to turn around and he's gone. And so, and then he's just started dying laughing. He was the biggest laugh, it was a big belly laugh. And I'm like, why is he chuckling? And he said, no, no, joke, joke. And he motioned for me to come back and sit next to him. And he leaned in and he pointed to my eyes and then pointed to his eyes. And he said, family. And for me, it was like, I had already seen him, but he saw me, you know, and that just meant so much that he was observant to notice that our eye color was very similar, although his, I think, are just so much more striking.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. And my whole goal in taking his photo and others like him's photo is to bring awareness that maybe if you're seeing him, you'll see others like him, you know, because, you know, we've all seen homeless people walking down the street, and some people will deliberately don't make eye contact, right? And then others will, but it's a human, right? It's a
Absolutely,
person, right?
yeah.
And I was so delighted. So that big, the photograph that you saw hanging in my booth at the Woodlands Arts Festival now hangs at the Woodlands High School.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So yes.
Was that part of their
program,
yeah.
yes, where they put a call out for artists and they narrow it down to like 12, and students come in and they all vote. And they have this huge collection of art now. And so he was one of the ones that they purchased.
Wow.
And that, I mean, between my experience at the Woodlands Waterway Art Festival and then the high school with that particular photo, it was just like, oh my, it just filled me with so much hope. You know, I have to be honest, when I thought I was taking a risk hanging him in my festival booth, you know, front and center, big, 48 inches wide. And that whole 3 days, only one person said something snarky. Everybody else they wanted to know the story, right?
Yeah,
they were
of
drawn in
course.
by him. And then on the heels of that, to have it at the Woodlands High School, where the art department narrowed it down to, 12 different pieces of artwork, to then the student body of 4,000 voting on which ones they wanted them to purchase. And he was one of them. It was like, my goodness, these kids, they see him.
Absolutely.
You know, and yeah. And then this past year at the Arts Festival, one of the students who's a sophomore, he and his dad came in and he knew the story. And and I had him hanging small. I always will hang him, somewhere he's going to be in there.
Yeah.
It's a good talking point, and it gets people asking about him, and they're seeing him. And so this young man was telling his dad the story. He knew the story, and I don't remember meeting him at the reception they had, but somewhere along the way he knew most of the story on him and was telling his dad that story.
Right.
And I had a little sign next to it that 100% of the proceeds will go to, if you purchase this, will go to the Montgomery Food Bank, which is what I've done when that one has sold. And so the dad asked me a couple of questions, and his son left, and they came back. They left, they came back. He bought it for his son.
Oh wow.
Because his son kept wanting to come back and brought his mom by. It was just, it really touched me. It really did.
That's cool.
That then the dad bought this for his son to hang in his room.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? That,
Well-
this kid in high school, sees this homeless man who's made an impact on him.
Right, and he's handing that story down too.
Yeah.
So because if we don't take care of the least of these, then who will? You know.
Yeah.
That's a great message.
And I think that's what the art's about, right? You're making that connection.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. In fact, I've shared this with you. I put it, my print is above my
Yeah.
desk
Yeah.
to remind me, because, you know, I have hard days like we all do. But it reminds me, hey, if that dude could have a hard day and be smiling like that,
Yeah.
we can too. Let's do it,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So it's a good reminder to me. I like art that has a message that, you know, inspires you, as this one did. And I remember at the Waterway, I remember afterwards hearing that you were taking a risk and that people had advised you not to put that in your booth so big,
Yes.
because it would deter people.
Yes.
And the absolute opposite is what happened.
I did. I mean, people were drawn in by him and would just stand there and stare at him.
Yeah.
You know, and want to know his story. Like,
Yeah.
there's got to be some reason you have him here.
Right. Well, that's something you're really good at too. You have a series of street photography from, I believe it's New Orleans, right? New Orleans
yes.
music scene, and a couple of different images that stand out to me. You're from New Orleans,
Yes, originally there. Been here
Okay.
since 1990. But
Okay.
yes, grew up in South Louisiana, down the river.
Right on. So there's a lot of people to watch in New Orleans, that's for
Yes.
sure, right?
Yeah. Go hang out on the corner of Royal and Iberville or Bienville, and you're sure to see some street bands with some street kids or street adults that are going to play, and of course have their hat out for some money.
Right.
Yeah, I think I know which one, though you probably are remembering, is the street musicians, the whole group of young adults.
group of them, yeah.
Young adults, yeah. And it looked like, I mean, they're family, right, to one another, but obviously not biologically related. I later learned that they're called boxcar kids. And it's not that group of kids is called boxcar kids, it's a whole generation of kids like them that are called boxcar kids because they jump on trains, boxcars, to get from one destination to the next. So they're boxcar kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember, I've read about that, you know,
Yeah.
back in the day. I didn't know that was still a thing, so that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you can tell looking at those photographs that there's a lot of story to tell among the people that you find. So when you're out and about, how do you determine who you want to focus on and who you want to photograph? How does it just come to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I may sit on the curb and watch them and take some photos, or I may sit there and just listen and watch. And I'm always, of course, going to throw some money into whatever it is, container that they're capturing some money. And they obviously can see I have more than an iPhone with me taking photos, and that I'm a photographer taking photos. And so I certainly don't want to take advantage of that. So I'm always sure to throw some money in there. And I'm artistically too, I'm also looking at the surrounding scene behind them, the clutter that might be. You know, I'll take photos, but I maybe would not use it. So I'm trying, you know, I'll look at that though as I'm sitting there too. You know, how's that going to look aesthetically? Again, wanting to get it right in camera. I don't want to have to do a bunch of Photoshop and take a bunch of cars and people out of the background. How's that going to look? Is everything that's in that shot going to be compelling and tell that story? You know, so I'm looking at that as well as I'm deciding, is this one that maybe I'm going to use in my work?
Is there a certain type of lighting environment you like more than others?
Yeah, I mean, middle of the day, harsh light is hard to deal with because of all the shadows that it creates. But then on the other hand, it also creates a little bit of drama as well with the shadows.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just managing that light. You know, when you're between the buildings there, though, you might have some harsh shadows coming through, or some light coming through that maybe is only hitting part of the group and not the rest of the group. You know, how's that look in camera? And so I'll snap away and adjust my settings accordingly, and then decide in post-processing if it's one that I'll use and share or not.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I know you brought your camera today. You showed it to me, and it is a massive, cool-looking apparatus. Is that something you take with you everywhere? Do you always have it handy?
Oh, that's a really good question because I don't. So, I mean, I've shot Canon since high school. When I first learned about a 35 millimeter, and the school principal came to me and said, hey, we need somebody to take photos of some of the kids, sports activities, whatever. You always have a little camera. How about you do it? And the school had a Canon AE1. I had no idea how to use that. It's a little different than my little Kodak Instamatic. And so I've shot Canon ever since. And so my Canon that I'm using now, that I went mirrorless from digital to mirrorless a few years back, it's an R3, and it is pretty big and heavy, and bigger than your everyday camera that you're going to see. And of course I brought it in today with my macro lens on it, because that's what I use to shoot my florals. And so that's a longer lens too, that makes it look even bigger. But I don't, depends on where I am. Going into New Orleans, I might walk around a little bit with that camera, but I'm not going to put a bigger, longer lens on it, because it's very conspicuous.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. People see you like, who is this?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are you doing?
And I don't want to get knocked over either and have someone run off with my camera.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have a Leica, which is it's a very small looking camera. It's got a very nice lens on it. And so like the Peace Man, Windows to the Soul in Portugal, I did not take my big Canon with me to Europe. I just took my Leica, and so I took that with my little Leica. And unless you know, like the little red dot on the front of a Leica, that's a Leica, you just think, oh, that's a little camera she's got.
Okay.
It's very inconspicuous. And so that's a good camera that I'll take. And it's a good street photography camera as well. I wouldn't use that camera to do my florals though.
Well, it's obviously good for the people. I mean, because the people that you photographed are just alive. You can almost touch them. It feels like
it's got a fixed lens on it too. And my husband and I love going to concerts. And we've become a little bit of a concert snob, that I want to be in the pit, in the front row, front and center. Right. Can't always do that, but I have learned though at the Pavilion, and I'm thinking it's probably this way at other arenas where music is played, that you can bring in a camera if it has a fixed lens. So like, my big Canon, Justin will take the lens off, swap out lens, you can't take that, but my Leica, I can bring in, it's got a fixed lens.
Okay.
And so I have one that's, I don't know if you've been to the Conroe Art League recently.
Yeah, I saw it.
That the red.
Yeah,
so
it looked like a piano player or a keyboardist.
It's Lawrence Gowan, who's the vocalist and pianist for Styx.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And so I took that with my Leica, right? And I will take that with me to the concerts, not knowing what you're going to get, right? But it's a great opportunity for a photographer, right? You get all the colors and the smoke and, the dynamic of them moving around and singing. But when he started crouching and doing what he was doing, I was like, oh, I think this is going to be a really great photo.
It is a very dramatic photo, and I love that it's like a deep purple color, maroon. Is it maroon or purple?
It's kind of, it's like a burgundy.
Burgundy, yeah.
It's kind of a deep cut, and that was the smoke and the lights and.
Yeah, and this intensity in the
His
gentleman's
face,
eyes.
yes. Yeah, and he's pointing and
Yeah, that's cool. And it's
no,
also,
he's actually going shh, because another one he's pointing, but that one he's got his finger up to his lips.
and it's a low angle too, so a little bit of perspective in there. It looks very cool. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like it. Like I said, your people photography is something that really resonates with me. One of my favorite ones. I have a lot of favorite ones, but one that really stuck out to me is the one of, I believe it's a Mennonite family walking along the beach.
Yes.
Tell me how that came about, because
gosh.
that was, you had your camera that day, and that was a perfect opportunity,
Being
right?
in the right place at the right time with my camera. So my camera, typically I take my camera a lot of places with me. My husband and I were down in South Padre. We love going to the beach. He's Mr. Meteorologist. He said a storm has come through, which I knew, of course. He goes, another one's going to come through, and we got 32 minutes. If we're going to go for a walk, we need to go right now. And so grabbed my camera, and off we went down the beach. And here come these just beautiful ladies with these pastel dresses walking, and they're in the water, and the water swirling around them. The wind is blowing so hard, so their dresses, their little ties on their caps that they're wearing are flying behind them, and it was just like, oh my goodness. But I have a rule. I need your permission if I'm going to take your photo, right? And so I've kind of got my camera, and I did have my Canon with me, and so it's the bigger camera, and I'm like, I didn't want to disturb their solitude of walking. I also didn't want to run up on them, and I was taking them from far away, but I was just kind of gesturing with my camera, and like, can I take your photo, please? And two of the ladies nodded their head, consent, and so away I went, just snapping away, and it was the craziest photo, right?
Yeah.
That these women are with, and they had one man with them in the back, and I wanted to know the dynamics and the relationship. And I did a little research because I did not know that there were Mennonites at the time. I thought that there were of some religion, but I didn't know what. So I did a little bit of research, and there's a whole population of Mennonites and down in the valley, and they mobilize when there's some sort of disaster, like a hurricane coming through or whatever, and they'll mobilize and they'll go into that community to help.
Wow, that's cool. And I didn't know about the storm, but you could tell that something had happened in the sky because it's very dramatic.
Yeah.
And then, you have the perfect composition where they're kind of in the lower third on the side.
Yeah.
And I grew up in West Central Illinois where there's a lot of Amish and Mennonite families. And so I used to take the Amtrak to Chicago all the time, and you'd see a lot of those folks on the train. So I knew immediately when I saw them, who it was.
Yeah.
It was, so it's really cool moment in time where, good thing you had your camera.
I know, right? Yeah.
Right?
It was just right place at the right time with my camera. So.
Yeah, right on. So we're talking a lot about the people that you photographed. There's also a couple ones in there that are not what I would think of as Patti Gary photography right away, but when I saw it and then found out it was yours, I realized, of course it's yours. And then one of my favorite ones is the winter tea time scene. Yes.
The birds.
So
The tea party.
Yeah, the tea party, which is, again, you just had the camera at the right time. I want to know how many shots you had to take to get that one.
So you're referring to the snowstorm, right?
Yes.
When we had the snow, and that one I think was February of 21, when we had all of the snow. But I will sit outside actually with the birds.
Snow in Texas, by the way.
Right,
Houston,
yeah,
Texas.
yeah.
So.
When there's not snow, I'll sit out there as well. So it is
Okay.
something I will routinely do on the back of our property. I've got bird feeders, and I think the birds know me now.
Right.
Some will right away come, and I set up a tea party. There's bird seed that's in the cups, and for me, it's very meditative. I mean, I love watching the birds, but sitting out there, I'm I don't know, 10 to 12 feet from them. I've been able to get a little closer, so that's not that far away. And as soon as one hops down, because I've got them set up under the bird feeder, then the others will generally hop down as well. And then, I'm having to be still. I'm not scrolling on my phone. I'm not just reading mindless stuff on, my phone or looking at social media. I'm sitting there and I'm watching the birds. And I have my camera connected to my phone, so I'm not having to lean forward and keep looking through the viewfinder. I can look at it on my phone and just very gently hit the shutter on my phone, so I'm not scaring them away. But I have to be still and I have to be in the moment, and I'm just thinking about the birds. So it's meditative. It's very relaxing for me to be out there doing that. And of course, when we had all the snow, oh my goodness, the birds were very plentiful. They couldn't see the food, and then here I come with, there she comes with the tea party. I like kind of give them all personalities and speak for them. And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you see the image, you think, because there's different species of birds there, they're all like coming together.
And then there's the one purple finch. I mean, that particular one, the purple finch was there first, and he was on top of the teapot, then on the rose, and then on the teacup, and then the sparrow comes in, and she's screaming at him. You can just tell as he's flying in. The pine siskins come in, but they were all getting along though pretty good. And as the week went on, though, it got very interesting because I was feeling what they were feeling. They were tired of it, right? Okay, we're already in the South. We don't want this cold weather. And as we had no electricity or water, the scene changed from a pleasant tea party with English sonnet books that were in the scene to a bottle of gin, a couple of drinking glasses, some dark bottles, and
yeah, that was a dark time in Texas history. Let's admit it. I mean, snows.
We're not used to that.
No, and really the power going out. That was the big part. Right?
Yeah.
That was a big. That was before I moved here. I moved here in June of 22.
Oh, okay. Well,
but my parents are here, and I remember hearing about all the chaos. And I had a sister who was pregnant. She had to go somewhere else to be where there's warmth.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly. I know I sat out there for about 3 hours. To answer your question, how long, how many shots? I mean, it took a zillion shots, thousands of photos.
Yeah.
But then that one though was the best one, where it had all the different species right there, and that purple finch just staring at me like, who invited them? So I named it Finch and the Party Crashers.
Oh, okay, that's the name of it.
Because they're crashing his party. He thought he had all the teacups to himself with all the food. But I sat out there for about 3 hours though, and I mean, I was very bundled, I was warm, but my husband would text me, "Are you okay?" He was only going to come out if I didn't respond. He was only going to come rescue me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you were all right. What was the moment like when you found that one?
Oh my
Was it
goodness.
Eureka?
Oh, it was, it was. I was just like, oh my goodness, like, yeah. And I mean, the way the sparrows were and the pine siskin, I mean, he was, staring at me, and then the purple finch and then the pine siskins all around. I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's probably 6 or 7 birds in that one scene,
yeah,
right?
There were a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just perfect. It was like, how did she do that?
Yeah.
Like, what do you...
Snapped a zillion photos.
Okay, right on. And you put the bird seed out, I'm sure.
Oh
that
yeah, the
helped.
bird seed, yes, yeah.
That's a big help.
Yeah.
Cool. There's one other people photograph that I wanted to ask you about, because to me this is definitely out of a fantasy novel of sorts. It's the Red Riding Hood looking with the white suitcase. What inspired that? Where did that come from? How?
So that was my daughter, actually.
Okay.
And I have these beautiful velvet capes. The green one I was wearing in the photo with flowers on it.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a cape that's got a hood on it, and they're just really gorgeous capes. And I have a red one, too. And so...
We got to bring back the cape.
I know, right, yeah.
That's a cool... Yeah, okay, go ahead.
And so she was living with us at the time, and she came home from work, and she had on black and white check slacks. And I was outside actually shooting some other photos when she got home, and I was like, stay right there. I ran in and got the cape, and I was like, okay, this is what I want you to do. I had the suitcase out there already. It's this old vintage suitcase that's that white with the red stripes, and I shoot, in the backyard with all those trees, and I just told her, I said, okay, I had her twirling, I had her walking away, so there's a whole series of her in them.
Okay.
And I think it was meaningful because it was a point of transition in her life, and where she was, it was the unknown, but yet it was very positive, and that, she was walking forward into something that was unknown, but knew that she would be just fine.
Right. Yeah, and there's something about the red, and just the overall red hue of the scene.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I turned I have it where the grass and everything's all green, but I turned it red. Yes, yeah. Okay. And so that was where I did manipulate it strategically, because I thought when I turned it all red, the grass red, the leaves red, she was red, it just added so much more mystique and drama to it.
It's super cool. Definitely reminded me of fantasy novels growing up. Yeah. It was just perfect. So. Yeah, good job. I'm sure you've heard. You don't need me to tell you good job, but I'm a fan. So sometimes it looks like, you catch moments by accident sometimes. Sometimes you come up with an idea in your head, like your daughter in this red cape, and then sometimes your still lifes too seem to be very deliberate and intentional. I think of the blue and the orange, the oranges on the blue background. That's one of my favorites of yours in still life. And I'm not like head over heels over still lifes, but your still lifes make me stop and look. We have the vases that look like swans,
I just did that series not long ago.
Yeah, the blue, and we've had a lot of those here at the Ardest Gallery, by the way. Shout out to Julie, by the way, for the Ardest Gallery. You should come and see Patti's work here.
Everybody's work. It's fabulous.
Yes, absolutely. But tell me a little bit about what goes into the intentional setup for a still life, because yours is very different. It's not what you would normally see.
Yeah. So I will give myself projects or assignments just to stay fresh and not get stuck's maybe not the right word, because I really enjoy taking my florals, but I'm going to always gravitate to my florals. If I'm not somewhere where I can see street people or some other type of scene or set up birds, this is in my comfortable home studio, I've got flowers, I'm going to take flower photos. So I will give myself assignments, and so that particular week, my assignment was to shoot complementary colors.
Okay.
And so blue and orange are complementary colors. So I didn't, so now how do I make an interesting, so it was more than just thinking of, blue, orange, but I needed to come up with a striking composition. So it's challenging me not just technically with my camera to get a good shot, but to compose it properly as well. And so So I was like, okay, blue and orange. How can I make a striking blue and orange scene? So oranges, and then everything else in that scene is blue, if you recall.
Yeah, absolutely blue, like a deep, deep blue.
So, yeah, I took a big canvas that I had. I'm not a painter, but I had some cobalt blue. I've named that one Cobalt and Clementines.
Okay.
And so a cobalt blue, and I painted just using one of the palette knives, right, to give like a textured blue wall. That's what I wanted that look to be. And I had some blue velvet, and then blue glasses, blue bowls, everything, a blue wine bottle. And just then set it up a variety of different ways. The blue velvet was the tablecloth on it, and I did some that was just all that blue with one orange without everything else. I did it a variety of different ways, just to see what I thought then compositionally looked best.
Right. So you play around with it
Yeah.
a little bit. You have fun.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You have fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and it took. I mean, that was over the course of a week, like planning it, setting it up, shooting it, and then looking at it in post. Yeah.
That's cool. How often do you think about photographs you want to take or setups that you want to try?
I've been focusing lately on working with light, and so the series that you were just talking about with the vases that are kind of like swans. Okay, how can I'm going to challenge myself to light something differently than I normally would light. Using multiple off-camera flashes, for example, or different strobes, and then playing with shadows, and just to make it compelling and different, and it also really challenges myself on technically always getting better.
Okay.
I think that's one of the great things about being an artist, right? We're constantly trying to do something new and different, or just to perfect what it is that we're working on right then, right?
Yeah.
So constantly growing, evolving, getting better.
Absolutely. And in 2025, to be a fine art photographer, that's saying something, because everybody thinks they're a photographer now because everybody has an iPhone 11 in their hands or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have taken it to a different level. You're doing things that other people aren't doing. And I think that's really what the whole game is about, right?
Staying fresh and
Yeah, and doing different things. Being, instead of trying to be the best, you're trying to be the only.
Right.
The only Patti Gary.
Yeah.
Right. And you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you very much. I was really excited. Can I share with you an award I recently won?
Sure, absolutely.
So, Refocus Awards, which it's an all photography competition. They only do 3 a year, and I'd entered it previously. It's worldwide, so it's global. The most recent one they did, I think it was 83 countries. Had artists that submitted, so thousands of artists, lots of different categories. So they pick a best of show like most art exhibitions do, right? You have a best of show that's over everything, and then you'll have the different categories with your first, second, third, and honorable mention. And so I entered again this year, and I was so delighted because I had several that were finalists. The Birds,
Cool.
My Dead Rose series, Rose Couture 1, 2, and 3, they were in it as well. And the blues, so the ones that you've named, so Cobalt and Clementines, also was a finalist in it. And so I was just so delighted that these made it into the final round. Just making it that far, I was just delighted. And so I got the email one morning that was saying, okay, the results are in, which I knew the results were going to be coming out soon. And I was very anxious to run and look to see what were the first, second, and third, or they called it the gold, silver, and bronze for each of those different categories. And I had entered into still life, fine art, conceptual, so different categories. And I, wanting to go look to see who won was just to give me some insight into what the judges were looking for. And these were judges like from National Geographic, the Smithsonian, Condé Nast. I mean, these were just very reputable, credible, worldwide organizations that were doing the judging. Like the NBC Director of Photography, and at any rate, so I wanted to see what did they choose in each of these different categories, because it'd give me some insight too in what they were looking at, what they were looking for. And so I'm flipping through it on my phone, and I get to still life. Rose Couture, my Rose Couture series won. And I was like, what? My Rose Couture series won? I was just, no, what? 'Cause I didn't receive an email on it, and I certainly did not expect to win that. And then I won the third bronze as well, an honorable mention.
Wow. For which image?
Still life. It was for still life. So,
Okay.
so cobalt and clementines and the birds.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, wow.
Yeah, and so that was really exciting because I certainly did not expect to win in the category. I was delighted to be a finalist. And when I was flipping through them, I had not been notified that I had won a category. So I certainly wasn't expecting it as I was flipping through them to see what the winners were.
Wow.
And then they put out a cool press release, and it was like in several print publications and stuff like that.
Awesome.
And then the other day, a trophy arrived.
Oh, you got a trophy.
It's a really cool crystal trophy for the gold. Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, oh, this is really cool.
See, we got somebody special here. That's I think the lesson in all of that is humility, right? Which you have, and then also paying attention to the least of these, right? I think that comes back and rewards you eventually, as you have been, because people are noticing your work. Myself included, not that I'm anybody, but I love your work. I think it's great.
Well, thank you.
So I'm really happy you sat down here today with me. Before we go, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
these are the type of things that will kind of give us a window into who is Patti Gary as a person and an artist too. But we want to have a little fun with it. So the answer will be in the question usually, and we're going to go quick. Okay.
Okay.
No pressure. No pressure.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is coffee or tea.
Tea.
All right. So easy.
Cold or hot?
Yeah. There you go. Red or blue.
Blue.
Easy. Kodak or Fuji?
Kodak.
Okay. Are either one of them around anymore?
No, and the only reason I went immediately to Kodak is because I'm thinking of before my Canon days, I always had a little Kodak Instamatic.
Okay.
Right. So, and when I think of Fuji, I guess I think of Fuji film, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's why I just went with Kodak. So.
Well, there was a time when my grandma used to send me to the store to get the film developed, which we don't have to do that anymore, but those are fun days. All right. Hot dog or hamburger?
Oh, I eat more hamburgers, but I really like a good hot dog.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. Film or digital?
Oh, digital. But yeah, because I left my film days. I was actually slow to get to digital. I was still hanging on to the film days.
Okay.
Yeah, but now it's more economical, right? And because you can take more and more photos to be able to cull through them to get to the ones you really want to keep.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me. It's made life much easier.
Yeah.
Although I always like looking at somebody who's doing film work. It has that mystique, that graininess to it.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
That like worn in, like used kind of look.
Yeah.
Nostalgia, I think, is a lot of it, really.
Right.
I like VHS tapes for the same reason.
Yeah.
And that warped sound that comes from them.
Yeah.
Plan or no plan?
Oh, no plan.
Okay, good.
Which is just the opposite of my husband, who's planned.
Ah.
But that's good though, because then he plans.
There you go.
So
you work together, right?
works. Yeah.
Okay, sign the front or the back?
Front.
Front. Red wine or white?
Gin.
Okay, there you go. All right, even better. Even better. Morning or night?
Night.
Night, all right. Night owl?
Yep, for sure.
Okay. Light or dark?
Oh, light.
Light, okay.
I think just because photography, light.
Yeah.
Light. It's all about the light.
Right on. And part of the fun is trying to figure out why you came up with that answer, where you're going. Not always is it apparent. So, right on. All right. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram. I haven't quite figured out TikTok, although every now and then I have a TikTok account. I don't even know how I got one of those. And every now and then if I click on something, it takes me to TikTok and I can see it. But oh my goodness, you're in that TikTok rabbit hole though once you start one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not on TikTok, but I
haven't made a TikTok. And I see you
Yeah.
would be great on TikTok because there's a lot of videos.
yeah, I just don't want, well, they have all my information anyway, but
Right,
I just don't want another thing.
Yes.
There's just too many things.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Instagram rabbit hole is deep too. So is
true.
YouTube. All of it.
Yeah.
People, places, or things. This is a tough one for you, I think.
Oh, that really is a tough one. I don't know
If you had to do it right now, people, places, or things.
places.
Okay, there you go. Work with music or no music?
With music.
With music, all right. Work large or work small?
Small because I think of being in the weeds as opposed to looking at things from a higher level, and I'm always in the weeds.
Okay.
I had a colleague of mine, really great friend of mine, Marty, and she was always high level, and I'd be in the weeds. And we'd do a lot of projects together, and she'd be like, okay, I don't need you in the weeds right now. I need you up here. You got to come out. You need to get out of the weeds.
Right on.
And so, yeah.
Cool. Well, the last one here is take a long drive or take a long walk.
Drive.
Drive, right on.
Drive, yeah. On a meandering country road, not on the freeway.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I can turn a 3-hour drive into a 6-hour drive.
Awesome. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you for joining me today, Patti Gary. Make sure you come see her work at the Ardest Gallery. You can also see her at the Conroe Art League, at the Madeley Fine Art Gallery. I'm going to tell everybody your socials real quick,
Sure.
right? So on Instagram, follow her at Patti Gary Photography, and we'll put it here on the screen so you see it. Also on Facebook, Patti Gary Photography, and her website. You have a great website, by the way, pattigaryphotography.com. Check
Thank
it
you.
out. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Right
It's
on.
been fun.
Peace.